Welcome everyone to the Sunday Roast, and Ben Chambers is back again. Hi Ben, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself? And
I will. Let's crack
show
straight
plug?
on. You don't stand on ceremony, do you, Alex?
No, I do not.
No, I'm Ben. I do a little podcast radio show called SMR, Single Minded Rejoiners. Used to be called 16 Million Rising. It's still called SMR. Totally free. Goes out every Monday from 6 on all podcast platforms, Mixcloud, Alexa. Or you can subscribe and get it a day early with a whole bunch of goodies. I'm sure there'll be a link to that somewhere in the description for this show. Okay, this week's one actually is a really good one because I'm talking to a guy called Will Pound, who is a gob iron mouth harp harmonica player, but he's also played with the likes of Evelyn Glennie and a whole bunch of other great percussionists and violinists. And he put together an album a few years ago called A Day Will Come. Music from the 27, the EU 27. So he's incredible. I only speak to pro EU, anti-Brexit types on my show, and he was really, really good guest this week. So yeah, check that one out.
Amazing. I will, and there is a link in the description for everyone watching this. Graham
Brilliant.
Hughes, co-host, please can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Graham Hughes, first person to visit every country in the world without flying, Guinness World Record holder. Speaker at 7 TED events, and also I won an island in the Caribbean in a game show once. Now I host the Politics Social channel, and if you want to find that here on YouTube, it is youtube.com/at Graham Politics, and spelled Graham correctly, like it is in the corner here. And you will gain access. It's a good little community. I don't chase the viewers for clicks, for adverts. Rather, it's a community that we've put together, and it's kind of funded mostly by membership and super chats. So it gives us freedom to sort of talk about what we want to talk about without having to make it all like, oh my God, Trump's head fell off yesterday. And then you click on the link and he scratched his head, and you're like,
yeah.
Why did I click on that link? Nothing happened.
I'm not digging a lot of these Americans.
This is Trump's worst nightmare.
I'm like, watch it, like, oh,
no,
there was one yesterday I saw. Christy Nome breaks down in tears, and I was like, okay, I've got
okay.
Didn't break down in tears. I was like,
what you got like this?
What the fuck? What the fuck?
So we don't have to do the clickbaity stuff, and we can talk about whatever we want, and we can swear, and it's all live. It's all live streamed, so we can have a two-way conversation. I can read your messages back to you, and everyone involved can take part in the show if they so wish.
Awesome. Shall we, as it's the 10-year anniversary of Brexit?
Not quite.
Not far off.
That will be June the 23rd, but we are heading in that direction inevitably.
But it is the day that we left, 31st of January.
Oh, right. Sorry.
So
yes,
of
course
sort of
it is.
It all in together.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
That's why I'm saying 10-year anniversary, because I'm going to go, it's a piece of shit. Let's talk about how shit, and how there's a bunch of people with a lot of money demanding that we continue it. And what is it, 30% of the population as well probably now want to continue the hammering of Britain with the Brexit.
You're looking at the flip side of the coin that I thought was now inexorably the momentum was with rejoining. I mean, you've got people like Nick Clegg, I think he's reared his head again, hasn't he? He's popped up from nowhere, looking about 50 years older, coming out with it's no big deal to admit you made a mistake. It hasn't worked. That seems to be what all the political pundits and commentators are saying. But back to this 10-year thing, you're talking about when we actually left. That's not 10 years. That was 2020. So that is 6 years.
But it's still the year of the 10-year anniversary.
It is the year of the 10th year anniversary since the referendum, since we made the decision.
Yeah, it was the day that the decision was made. But we had the build up to that because we had all of the people on both sides campaigning.
That was 4 years. 4 years.
And then also, after the vote, we had another 4 years of mucking about, deciding on what kind of exit strategy we're going to have. And then, they spat all the dummy out the pram and gave us one of the hardest Brexit that was possible to give, and still keep the Northern Ireland situation at bay, because obviously it meant that, we were going to have a hard border on the island of Ireland, which is banned by the Good Friday Agreement. And so there's a lot of, things that had to be put in place. But you meet people at parties who are anarchists or communists or Brexiters, and they all say the same thing. They go, no, my system works. It just hasn't been done properly, which is fucking ridiculous. It's like saying, these turd sandwiches, right? You just got to get the person who makes that turd sandwich correctly, and then it'll taste great. And I'm sitting there going, no, mate, it's still a turd sandwich. It's still a fucking bad idea.
I'd happily have an argument over communism and whether or not there are elements of it that worked and didn't. But fair play on the rest.
Well, I mean, as a whole,
Yeah.
one of the biggest problems with capitalism is the same problem that we had with communism. It doesn't take into account human greed. You need to have something that takes into account that there are greedy motherfuckers out there who just want to, amass all this money for themselves and sit on top of this golden mountain like bloody Smaug, sitting there going, I don't have enough money. I need more money, more money. I saw this week 16,000 workers at Amazon laid off. And it's like the posting record profits. Amazon in this country pay no bloody tax. We've got the high streets are dying, and it's because the corporation tax, the business rates on businesses in a city centre are through the roof.
Yep.
The tax on these massive warehouses out of town, which seems to be built on greenbelt property, which greenbelt land, which I don't understand. But someone's had the handshake, haven't they? And yeah, what chance do we stand against that? And yet they're still like, we need to sack people. We need to get AI. We need to get drones. We need to get self-driving cars. We don't want to employ anyone. We need more money, more money.
But also
richer than anyone can spend in
going back to
lifetimes.
what you just said there, Graham, about if it was my turd sandwich and I put the ingredients in, it would be better and everyone would love it. Not only is that the laziest excuse they can possibly come up with, it's the same excuse, but it's the same kind of MO that Reform are using at the moment when anyone asks them about their policies on anything.
Yes.
They've got the answers, but they don't want to tell us.
Oh, they've got the Tories now. They've got the people who ruin the country. They keep standing up and saying the country's broken. So here is one of the people who broke it.
Fix it. Well,
okay.
Better, because Farage this week was lauding over the fact those Turkish barbers have been attacked and looked into, and people have been arrested, and he was claiming it was money laundering. He's just pulled in a load of people that committed various forms of tax fraud or dodgy dealings. Like Robert Jenrick, what was it, 40 million? He lost us some tax because he helped his mate get his housing estate built. On
Richard
time.
Desmond, the former owner of Barely Legal magazine.
This is why I loathe Farage with a ferocity that I just haven't reserved for anybody else. It's because he's evil and he knows exactly what he's doing. It's not that he's doing these things because he's a bit of a buffoon or he can even pretend to be. He knows exactly what he's doing. And that's what really gets me about him and all his ilk. And as you say, with the Tories, I mean, question time last night, this question came up. It was in King's Lynn, which is my old stomping ground in Norfolk, and I thought it was going to be a gammon fest. And actually, there were quite a few sensible voices in the audience. There really were. And on the panel as well, apart from, is it Kissing? Konstantin
so
Kissing.
Sure.
Oh, he was awful.
Oh, he's a dickhead.
Absolute dickhead. But no, this is the same thing they're doing at the moment. When anyone asks them what their policies are, it all basically boils down to stop the boats. And there's very little beyond that. In fact, there's nothing beyond that.
They want a British ICE. They're looking at what's happening in America with American citizens being shot in the face in broad daylight by masked men with impunity to murder. And they're like, yeah, we want that. That's what we want. And we need to push this. We need to be putting up adverts, so people see it going, Farage wants ICE. Because we've got these clips of him saying that they want to bring ICE over here.
Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, is suggesting that if you bring in your mass deportations to the United Kingdom, we could see similar scenes of violence and disorder. Has this given you pause at all? What's your response to what Sadiq Khan said?
We do not routinely, as a country, give our police force, give our authority weapons unless there is an imminent risk of a terror attack. And when it comes to deportations, the point is, if people are here illegally, they shouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. Now, no one's pretending this will be easy. No one's pretending there won't be pushback. But it needs to happen because if it doesn't, you don't stop the flow of people continually coming here illegally.
But the mad thing about the immigration thing is, who have they brought from the Tories? Suella Braverman, who was Home Secretary 2023, 2022, 23, right? Her and Robert Jenrick, who was Immigration Minister 2022, 23. And have a look at that chart. Have a look at the graph of immigration in the UK. 2022, boom! And then 2023, back down again. It was like they were the people behind the so-called Boris wave, which Refuck have been complaining about. And it's like, you've literally brought the people who are in charge of that happening. But now what they're saying is, We would have got away with it if it wasn't for you pesky kids. The big thing they're going to stand on in the next election is going to be getting us out of the European Court of Human Rights or the Convention of Human Rights, because they're blaming that. They're blaming that for us not being able to have stronger immigration controls. It's absolute bullshit. There's been less than 30 cases in the entire history of the international court, of the European court, of us being the British government being taken to court by refugees. And over half of those times that we were taken to court, the British government won.
There is a positive in all this, which is that if you look under a lot of the recent postings, certainly about the defections, there was a day, I think about a week and a half ago, where it seemed every 5 minutes there was another Tory defecting. We had Rossendale, of course, we had Jenrick. We've already forgotten Nadine Zahawi. So there were so many of them, and most of them councillors, to be fair. But it just seems that it's the same con from the same con men. It's the same grift, and they're getting away with it again, except under some of those posts, you can see there are Reform supporters who smell a rat. And I think if we're going to draw any positive from this, it's the fact that there genuinely are. There's a growing base of Reform supporters who think, hang on a minute, these are the Tories you told us repeatedly, Nigel, not to trust.
And my advice to you is not to believe these people, is not to trust these people. Why would you trust the very same people who have given away your birthright, who have given away the rights and privileges that were handed down to you? I will only trust any of them if they deliver actions and not words.
They wanted to blame you, or do they want to jump into bed with you? I thought Mr. Jenrick is kind of keen for you, to cuddle up.
Well, he's less rude about me than the other three. I mean, that is true. No, there will be no deal with them. I wouldn't trust them anyway. They have a pattern of behaviour, pretending to be one thing, and then when they're in government, being quite the opposite. And frankly, what I'm trying to do with Reform is to replace them.
Never trust a Tory, yet I'm now packing my party full of them. His excuse is, well, we need some experience of government, because he said this openly. That's the one thing we don't have as Reform. We have no experience of government. Well, now we've got it. But, I mean, seriously?
Experience.
It's unbelievably shit experience of government. These are the very people you have railed against night and day for years. You've now brought in. So, I mean, all the memes are doing a lot of the legwork for us. WeBuyAnyTory.com. There are so many of these refuckers who are smelling a rat. And I think there was one last night on Question Time who said, I worry that Reform's policies, which was laughable in itself, are going to be watered down and diluted by these Tories. And you're kind of thinking, that's not the issue. The issue is, of course, that we've now got the Tory party in a different shade of blue, with Nigel Farage as the guest star, as someone said only this morning, I think, on Twitter. And people are seeing through it. Some of them are seeing through it. So that has to be a good thing. But as Graham says, we've got to do far more to get the message there out about the ICE situation. It is phenomenal. I think the day of Alex Pretty's shooting, there was a Reform councillor who posted a picture of himself all over social media, holding up a great big banner, I stand with ICE, on the day of another ICE murder in Minneapolis. And of course, let's also remember, Nigel Farage hasn't condemned that. I don't believe, I may be wrong, but I don't think he has outright condemned that shooting. He's gone with the narrative from Kristi Noem that he was packing a gun, possibly some more ammunition. And it all, to me, comes back to I don't know it. I should have written it down because I've been thinking about it all day, all night and day. The 1984 quote, George Orwell. I think it's something along the lines of, it was the last and most essential command. Ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears. We've all seen that video. An ICE agent disarmed him, took the gun off him. Seconds later, he was shot 10 times. It's literally a case of, well, ignore all that. Ignore what you saw. Ignore what you heard. I'm Kristi Noem. I'm the Department of Homeland Security. I'm telling you what happened. And again, it's kind of...
It's not working. That's why she's being sacked. And so is Bombino.
Yeah. But Trump has rode back, I believe, on a lot of the more obvious nonsense on ICE, but he hasn't apologized. He hasn't. They've been given garden leave. They've been taken off duties. They've not been suspended. I don't believe. Are they being investigated?
No.
Is there an investigation?
Murders. I mean,
I mean, but it's terrifying. I mean, yeah, what Graham said is entirely true. Farage wants an ICE on the street. Someone put together a really, really good clip of Zia Youssef going through all the reasons why we need an immigration and customs enforcement agency on our streets in the UK.
The Trump administration. The Trump administration has cut.
I'm
answering your question. The Trump administration has cut illegal border crossings by 97%. Whatever you think of President Trump, the reason that has happened is because ICE has been deployed. They've arrested hundreds of thousands of people and deported hundreds of thousands of people. What's happened? People have stopped crossing the border. That is exactly why the small boats will stop coming, Trevor.
Oh, OK, so you're going to put snatch squads onto the streets of Birmingham.
Whether it's border force, these are unarmed, largely men in dinghies. We don't need a particularly formidable military to be able to take them to a detention facility.
The ICE operatives are armed. That's the example you just used.
Yeah.
These are armed men and women who go into factories. They went into a big technology factory the other day, took out 500 people. Are you saying that's what reform would do?
Trevor, the reason they are armed is almost all law enforcement personnel in America are armed because Americans are armed in the way that British people are not. So, no, we don't need UK deportation command unless they're going after people who are criminals.
I wasn't the person who raised America. You said this is what you wanted to do. I'm just asking you.
The point I was making is those mass arrests, those mass deportations have driven that behavioural change where people stop coming.
So when I think Ed Davies says we want to, let's not fall for Trump's America, make it Farage's Britain, he's spot on, because that is exactly what Farage wants to do. It's terrifying.
Would you stay in the country if the option was there? Would you stay in the country if Farage was Prime Minister?
If the option was, if Farage and Reform formed a government, I'd like to think moving to Scotland would be enough, because they'll have found a way by then to fast track themselves back into the EU. I don't know. I just don't know. Probably not, because if no one stays to fight it and to counter what is going on, then we end up God knows where. So probably not, no. And I don't know what Graham's thoughts on that. I'd be very interested to hear what Graham's thoughts are, since he is now the oracle of predicting where things end up politically. But is he going to end up becoming our Prime Minister in 3 years' time?
Not if we fight against him. I think that they're hitting their peak, because they went up to like 30-odd%. And then they started coming down again. Yeah. People are moving away from reform because they're seeing like that, reform are not offering a choice. They're offering the same thing. It's just the Tories in a lighter blue colour. Yeah. As for ICE being set up in the UK, there are big differences in the culture in the UK than there is in the US. But this idea that we're blaming absolutely everything on immigrants, like it's all the fault of immigrants. The point I make time and time again, if immigration was a problem, North Korea would be the richest country in the world and America would be the poorest. You have countries that have high levels of immigration, have really good economies. They generally speaking, and these dickheads who go, I'm going to Dubai, I hate it here because of all the Sharia law. They go to somewhere that's 95% immigrants. They're an immigrant and they have Sharia law. And I'm like, okay. And the people who are funding Nigel Farage are a lot, from Abu Dhabi or from Dubai or from Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And it's not a surprise that there's money coming from those oil-rich states, because the oil companies want us to be fighting against the EU, fighting against trans people, fighting against black people, fighting against immigrants, because it keeps us busy. And there is a stat that is absolutely shocking that came out a few weeks ago that showed that 80% of the funding for anti-trans organizations in the US comes from oil companies. What the hell? What the hell? No, oil companies. Because they want us fighting amongst ourselves over who gets to go for a piss in the toilet, instead of going, hang on, why are we burning all this stuff again?
That just reminds me again of, we're talking off air about it, that Simpsons episode where they bring in the Bear Patrol. Bear turns up, knocks over a post box, and the whole town goes mental.
So they then
get stealth bombers in, got cars driving around to make sure there are no bears. And then, of course, the taxes come in, and there's a scene with Mayor Quimby, and he goes, "Right, this is we're gonna have to come up with the most devious thing ever to be able to solve this, because they don't want the bears, but they don't want to pay the tax. How are you going to do it?"
It's the oldest trick in the political playbook, isn't it? Look over there. I mean, there isn't a politician alive that hasn't tried that at some point. Look over there; it's far worse over there. Leave me to get on doing what I'm doing over here without paying any attention.
How do they solve it in the end? Alex?
It's Proposition 24, I think it's called. So they have a vote I can't remember. I didn't manage to see the full episode.
You're a fan of the Twilight Zone, aren't you, Alex?
Yeah.
You know the episode "The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street." It was made in like
Yeah.
1960. It was the height of the Cold War, and it's this little town, picket fence, and a car turns on by itself, and the lights go on and off, and everyone's like, "Oh, there must have been a power surge." And there's a kid who's reading a comic about aliens. He goes, "No, it's aliens." And then they go, "Oh, it's aliens. Well, let's go and ask the school teacher down the road, the physics teacher. He knows about space and stuff." And they go along and say, "Tell us about these aliens." And he's like, "Go away, I'm doing something." And they're like, "Ha, he must be an alien." And they honestly wrap themselves up in their own heads of like, this is obviously, and it ends in a riot. There's a riot going on in this little, peaceful suburban street, and people like throwing fire bombs and punching each other. And then you see these two aliens on this hilltop nearby looking down at them going, "See, Kronos, we don't need to invade. We just turn the lights on and off and they go crazy." This is brilliant.
Sorry, there was an amazing scene where Lisa picks up this rock in front of Homer during that episode and goes, "What you're saying makes no sense. I might as well say that this rock keeps tigers away."
Not a bear in sight. The Bear Patrol must be working like a charm.
That's specious reasoning, Dad.
Thank you, honey.
By your logic, I could claim that this rock keeps tigers away.
Oh, how does it work?
It doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
It's just a stupid rock.
Uh-huh.
But I don't see any tigers around here, do you?
Lisa, I want to buy your rock.
We're living in this satire, aren't we, Alex? We're living in the satire. But one thing I will say about these ICE agents who were talking earlier about them acting with impunity and they've been given immunity from prosecution, that's only while Trump is alive. When the big, beautiful day comes, they're all in trouble. Just 2 years ago, there was a Nazi war criminal, 101 years old, who was found guilty and put in jail, and he died in jail.
Good.
There's no statute of limitation on murder. And these ICE people who were like, "Oh, no, it's all right. Trump is going to protect us." Yeah, he's going to protect you while he's alive. As soon as he's gone.
But he's not going to protect you while you... That's the thing they think. And that's the thing that's advertised. But that's not the reality. This is no different to what Hitler had set up. Like, in fact, there was even... You saw Nicki Minaj. She got that little gold card, right? Which is almost like, it's a visa. But it's almost an element of like, you're one of us now. I'll protect you.
Nicki Minaj.
Hitler was giving out little gold stars to people that were fucking numbered on the amount of loyalty he considered them at, ranking them 1 to like 10.
Oh my God.
And when I saw what Nicki Minaj was doing, it just triggered a memory there. I know it's slightly different because it's the visa and everything else, but it's this cult of personality. And you saw it with ICE. It's that if you obey and follow everything I do, no matter how hypocritical it is, and how much you might have disdain, but if you just follow what I'm doing, you will be rewarded. And that was no different to what Noam and Bonvino had. They were like, we're going to follow it and we're going to take it to the 10th level because we want to show Trump how much we love him.
Yeah.
The thing was, as soon as it backfired, no matter the fact that it was actually what Trump wanted, as soon as he saw the popularity decrease, he was like, well, you're no use to me anymore, so fuck off. Yeah. And that's the end of it. And that's all you get with this type of government.
Yeah.
So these ICE agents thinking that they're protected, they're only protected as long as they're useful. Well, if they no longer become of any use, like Ernst Röhm with Hitler, who
I was going to say this. This is like the SA in Nazi Germany, in the Night of the Long Knives. All these members of the SA, which was like, we think of the SS, don't we? Because they were the ones who continued on. But the SA, who were Hitler's personal bodyguards, and this industrialist who was giving him all this money and they just killed them. Just one night, they just killed them all.
Yeah.
No use to us anymore. Go away.
And there was no... Ernst Röhm was gay. Hitler had no problem with that as long as Ernst Röhm was useful.
Yeah.
There are no principles here.
Yeah.
You might as well be dealing with... It almost reminds me of that comparison, that question that Socrates posed about the gods. The god that you may want to follow has an element of like, are you just following whatever laws that he says? And whatever that law is, you'll follow it. So one day it could be don't kill, but the next day it could be go kill your babies. And you're just going to go, okay, you're God, so I'll do that. It's okay. And you're seeing the same thing with this authoritarianism. And it's brainwashing. It's my book, plug of the day. It's creating a fucking fear. It's a manufactured fear to then scare people into following that person and thinking they're going to solve the problems.
But trying to find some positivity in this again. I've heard very recently some talk of after the midterms, when Trump does badly, that the Democrats will grow a pair and possibly even begin impeachment proceedings. And this time there'll be enough weight behind them, because some of the voices against what ICE are doing are coming from Republicans. It's not just the Democrats. There are a lot of Republicans who are absolutely at their wits' end. They're appalled at what they're seeing, and I'm still not quite understanding why Minneapolis. I mean, perhaps one of you can put me straight on this, because I believe ICE was a national agency, but this is now two broad daylight murders that have taken place on the streets of Minneapolis, and that's the other thing to bear in mind. If that's what they're prepared to do, with 360 sort of panoramic mobile phones all the way around them, filming everything they're doing. That's what they're prepared to do in broad daylight with everybody watching. What the hell are they doing in these detention centers where nobody can see? And this again is to two. I mean, not that it makes it any difference whatsoever, but these are two American citizens, white American citizens with no criminal record. Immigration wasn't even an issue here. I mean, the first one with the car, I think it was Rene Good, and the car, the scenario there that they sort of plied was, oh, she was trying to run him over. She was using the car as a weapon. Clearly, she wasn't. I believe her last words were, "I'm not mad at you."
Yep.
And then with Alex Pretty, this is an ICU nurse who's devoted his life to working with veterans. I mean, you'd think he even fits the kind of the Republican hero template, but even he, after being disarmed, shot in the head, beaten in the head repeatedly on camera in broad daylight on the streets of Minneapolis. I haven't even listened to it yet, but I believe Bruce Springsteen has got a song out, written, recorded, and released in a couple of days, Streets of Minneapolis. Wow. And I mean, everywhere you go looking for sort of commentary on this, it's coming from both sides of the divide, both sides of the political aisle. It's not just the Democrats. And that's why if he loses the Senate and if he loses the House of Representatives after these midterms, do you think there'll be enough weight to begin meaningful action to take him down? So Graham's big, beautiful day can come perhaps a little earlier than it might otherwise.
You'll need 60% in the Senate. I don't believe you'll get it. I don't.
Even after the midterms.
I've seen where the only reason I say
midterms are going to be gerrymandered.
The states that are up for a midterm election, so it's a third every 2 years, have an election.
But they know he's not going to go. He's not going to go.
Yeah.
At the end of his term, he's not going to walk out the building and say, well, fair dues, I've had my 2 terms. He isn't going to go.
The only way he's going to leave is in the box. But I don't think the midterms are going to be free and fair by any stretch of the imagination. He's going to have ICE on the street, intimidating voters. They're using voter suppression techniques. They're trying to stop various people from voting by post. They're also, there's so many things they've got in train in motion. So do you remember Dominion voting machines? Do you remember the big thing in 2020? And Fox News got taken to court and had to pay out. Someone bought Dominion. One of Trump's mates bought Dominion. So those voting machines are now owned by a mate of Trump's. There's going to be, and the fake elector scheme that they had in the last, in the 2020 election. That was just a trial run. They're going to do it again. They're going to say even if a state votes overwhelmingly for the Democratic candidate in any given election, they're going to say no. It was, that's not the result.
TikTok as well, didn't they? Trump bought TikTok.
Yeah.
All his sons on the board.
Larry Ellison or someone.
Like a Trump MAGA supporter. So he'll have X, TikTok.
Yep.
And one of the voting machine systems.
Will he, though? I thought his relationship with Elon Musk was a little bit.
No, he came back.
They came back. They celebrated New Year together in Mar-a-Lago.
Did they really?
Yeah. There's pictures
so behind the times.
The left need to learn from this. The right are so forgiving. The right are the most forgiving people. Literally, the vice president of the United States accused Trump of being Hitler. That was the word he used.
Yeah.
Hitler, America's Hitler. And he's the vice president.
And then the right complained when people were calling Trump a fascist on the left.
Yeah.
And so is your vice president.
Yeah. But
and
Mandami
silent on comments like that. Or it's very
Mandami called him a fascist. And then he went to the White House and they said, you called him a fascist. And he went, oh, you don't have to answer that. They don't care. They don't care what
Yeah,
you call them.
yeah.
On the left, it's like, you looked at me funny 17 years ago. I'll never forgive you. You're dead to me. And you're like, oh, for God's sake, stop it. Just people on the left, please.
You're right. If you'll
watching
forgive me,
this.
Graham, it's like the Tim Minchin song, "Only a ginger can call
Can I
another
call another
ginger
ginger? It's
So
very true.
you're quite right. When they do it, it's absolutely fine. But if
Yeah.
the left do it, even responsibly with evidence, just look over there, something else.
But it's not just the right's reaction, it's the left's reaction to itself.
Yeah.
The purity test, the gatekeeping, it's hard to keep bloody track sometimes, like who's falling out with who. I just, I can't, I don't have time for it. I just walk away. I just drop it. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, I think there are things we can learn from the right, not to be evil, but just to be a bit more structured in our response. I can't see anything changing.
But hang on a minute, though. A lot of that comes, and again, I'm going to go back to Tim Minchin, who said this brilliantly. On the left, we're in a bubble, the left, but within that bubble, there are millions upon millions of smaller bubbles. And you talk about a purity test, where we are far more keen to find fault with each other than the much, 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 much bigger, overwhelming fault with those on the right. The problem with the right is they're all in one great, big, beautiful bubble. And if they fall out, like you said, Graham, they make up very quickly and it's all roses again. And part of that is because the majority of people in that big bubble on the right are of lower intelligence than the rest of the people in the bubbles on the left. So it's easy, but it's easy to get them on the same page, in the same bubble, with the same lie. But with us on the left, it's not as easy to do that.
Elon Musk effectively accused Trump of being a paedophile last year on Twitter. He said his name's in the Epstein files.
And now back in this corner.
And he's now back. Yeah.
Yeah.
That never ever happens on the left.
No, it doesn't.
We need to learn to stop doing this, And you say we're in a bubble, Ben, but realistically, I'd love to live in a bubble, mate. I'd love to live in a world where I don't have to hear or see what Rupert Murdoch thinks.
No, we're in bubbles within bubbles. That's the problem. So even though we're all broadly on the left and we all hate what's going on the other side of the divide, we're still locked in our own little bubbles where, right, my big thing is veganism. My big thing is what's happening to the trans community. My big thing is Palestine. My big thing is this. So you've got all those other bubbles and they're all right. There's nothing wrong with any of those arguments, but they clash up and rub up against each other in a way the right doesn't have that problem.
What's your big thing, Ben?
My big
Tell
thing.
us about your big thing.
My big thing. I haven't got a big thing. You know this. We've had lots of conversations. Every time we go to the cinema, you ask me to show you and tell you my...
I think you're right, because it is a case, like I saw TikTokers and YouTube people talking about people not talking about what was going on in Iran when 30,000 people were gunned to death in the street earlier this month.
Yeah.
Like, that fucking happened, and the silence was deafening because people didn't pick up on it as much as they pick up on Gaza. And it's not a zero-sum game. You can't look at what's happening in Gaza and go, that's bloody terrible, because it is. And they go, well, I'm not going to care about what's happening next door not next door, but nearby in Iran. I'm not going to care about that. And it's like, you can care about both.
You can, but equally, it's not a case of being... Well, I hate to use the phrase virtue signaling, but that's how it appears to other
poppy
people.
Wearing.
When you appear to care about everything, you can't fight every single fight. So my big thing is that Brexit is, and what happened in 2016 with the referendum, or David Bowie's death. Not quite sure which it is, but one of those two has caused the decline economically, culturally, socially, in every aspect of our lives in this country, and it hasn't picked up. There hasn't been an incline. We haven't got back even onto level ground yet. It's been 10 years of this shit. So my big thing has always been the mistake we made with Brexit far outweighs how wonderful the EU is. Of course it does. I've never been a big fan of all these people wrapping themselves up in flags and doing weird dances and stuff like that. The European movement, for example, it's great that Mike Galsworthy wants everyone to join and give them 99p a month to pay their massive wage bill. The problem with the European movement, as I see it, is if they'd been doing their fucking job properly in the first place, we would never have left. They've been here since 1947. What were they doing at the time? Nothing.
I think
there's an interesting thing
You think I'm what?
Okay,
Victim blaming.
We're all victims here. I blame myself. None of us did enough during the referendum.
Lazy
We
bastard.
we all thought it was going to be a done deal. It wasn't.
We did. Yeah. But then,
And
there's this interesting thing that you have with Trump, Hitler, Farage. Probably less so with Trump, but he has done it quite a few times. Like Trump was drip feeding that he wanted to run for president since the 80s. Got a clip of him with Dame Edna, and they're asking about politics. And Ivanka Trump is there going, yeah, he wants to do it, blah, blah, blah. And he did run for leadership of what was that middle party that Nader, I think? No, it wasn't Nader. Maybe it was a Tea Party. I think he had a run at the Tea Party. It was in the Roger Stone documentary, which is quite shocking. So Trump's always sort of done it and drip fed this idea that he wants to run for president. And he's always had an anti-immigration slant, and he's always had an anti-tariff thinking that the world's trying to fuck them over. For an isolationist and a racist, that's almost perfect. I've got clips of him in the 80s talking about how he hates, how you can't make a decision as to whether or not someone is a Native American based on their skin color. He doesn't think that they are. And you're going, this is drip feeding racism. Like, this has been consistent for 80 years, and it has been in the public. Hitler fucking ranted on about this shit for almost 2 decades before he got into power. Farage is no different. It's 2 decades of him drip feeding this shit into the public and gaining more and more money and credibility and getting into papers to spread it. And then you've got our paper system as well, which doesn't particularly help, which I personally think is horrendously to the right, the majority of them. Daily Mail has been saying anti-immigration and anti-Semitic stuff since the 30s. But the point is, from the the European movement or the pro-EU perspective, I don't think they realized that drip feeding being taking place in the UK over that period of time. He had a decade of working out what the arguments work, what people respond to most, how he can get people over the line. But it was also Boris Johnson defecting over onto that side, even though we know it was 50-50, and we've got video footage of that. So I think there's an element of like, I'm going to defend that European position because no one had the thought that this was a problem. It was the 2008 crash that this caused this. Historically, what happens and why you get these crazy people turning up, and this includes the Salem witch trials, who are equally crazy but not politically. There's an economic downturn, and a fucking wackadoodle leader turns up and starts repeating the same message over and over again. Salem witch was quite quick, but in all the other examples, communism, Hitler and the Nazis, Nigel Farage, it's a slow, constant drip feed and gaining more and more traction with money and press coverage. That's the problem. So I'm a bit like, it feels like that's a long run, but it's a concern that we have. Because I feel like we do blame ourselves a bit.
Yeah.
Being like, how were we not aware of this? And it's like, sometimes
there's a lot of factors.
We're in a bubble, but also we're not making shit up to create a problem because we're racist.
But we're not
Whereas
funded.
Some of these other guys are wanting to be racist and making shit up and drip feeding it for 10 years.
But we're not funded by foreign billionaires. That's the problem. All the left are not being funded by foreign billionaires. There's a whiff of corruption in Labour. It's like a minister filled out a bit of paperwork wrong, like didn't tick a box. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is making over £1 million a year on side projects that don't help us. He's like improving he's improving the worth of gold, which is great for our gold manufacturing industry in this country that we don't have. So how's he helping us? We don't run on the gold standard. We don't have much gold comparatively to other countries. It's not really worth as much to us. But he's doing that. He's selling stuff for other countries. He's selling golden visas to go and live in other countries to get rid of people from this country who should be paying a lot of tax, but they'd rather go somewhere where they don't have to pay tax. And Labour need to get their thumb out of their arse, and they need to stop politicians having second jobs. Just stop it. It should be absolutely illegal. How can you have a second job? It's going to be a breach of interest, a conflict of interest. Unless it's like, you've got to keep your hours in as a pilot or a GP or something. Fair enough, keep your hours in, but you can't get paid for it. You have to live off your 90 grand a year. Farage couldn't live off 90 grand a year. He would die. He would literally die. Shame.
I
But him trying to live off less than £2,000 a week, not going to happen. Not going to happen. He flies around on a private jet. He lives in he's got gated communities. He has private homes all over the country. Like, he is rich as. Plus, his girlfriend didn't pay any stamp duty on the £800,000 building that they bought in Clacton.
That came out. That's come out, has it?
Didn't pay any stamp duty because it was her first home, her starter home.
And this is where you've got one of those points of divergence, I think, between Trump and even Hitler and Farage. Whereas Trump, I don't think, makes any pretense that he's a man of the people. He's Trump. It's gold, gold, gold everywhere. You know, he's demolishing the White House to build his new ballroom. He doesn't make any secret of that. Whereas with Farage, his big selling point to all these people that have fallen for it is that you could meet him in your flat-roofed pub on the estate and have a pint with him. He'd be there. And he sells himself as the man of the people who would have a drink with you, not as the fox hunting elite former hedge fund banker who is a multimillionaire earning more than Rishi Sunak. They kind of know that, but that's pushed to the back of their minds because what they see is this guy they can go down the pub and have a drink with, have a laugh with. And it's the duplicity and the fact that he knows he's taken them all for a ride that really gets me. He's laughing at them. Now, you could argue that Hitler was laughing at people that followed him. I don't think it was the same with him.
No.
Trump, the same. I think with Farage,
Hitler
it's the fact that he is deliberately exploiting, weaponizing, and manipulating some of the most vulnerable people in society and then laughing at them behind their back, and they don't see it.
But
so on their behalf,
Ben,
I feel angry.
That I think Trump does the same thing. I don't think Trump's any different. He markets himself as the blue collar billionaire. Like, he's just one of the people. And you think about it, the chintzy shite that he puts in the White House, which is now
it's
become the shite house.
Yeah.
It's exactly what some trailer trash from My Name Is Earl would spend doing up their trailer.
Yeah.
If they won the lottery, if they won $1 million, that's the way their trailer would look, with all plastic gold stuck on the walls all over the place. It's that chic, and he knows it. He probably also does like it genuinely.
The thing I was going to say,
respond well to that. Whereas
going back to what you said about having one job and that should be enough. Of course it should. 90 grand. What it's over. It's nearing 100 now. With the defections, it's struck a lot of people, I think, recently over this past couple of weeks. There's only three choices here. We either leave things as they are. People can defect. There's no by-election. It doesn't have to happen. Or one of two other things can happen. If somebody defects from a political party to another midterm, there's an automatic by-election. That would seem to be fair. But for me, the obvious thing to do, and there's never really been much of a sort of a control on the MP's job, because it's not a job for life. It's a job for possibly 5 years, which is one of the excuses why it's paid quite well. They sign a contract which says you can't defect. You can resign. If you fall out of love with your party and they're going in a different direction to you, or you want to go in a different direction to them, you resign, and then it's a by-election. What you can't do is midway through the match, run to the sidelines, take your strip off, put the opposing team strip on because they're winning and you're not, and then run back onto the fucking pitch expecting a round of applause. That is what Jenrick did. That's what Braverman's done. I mean, putting aside all the other hypocrisy and the irony of everything else, it's not sporting like, is it? It's not sportsmanship. You don't do that. So I think when an MP becomes an MP, they're serving their community, and whether they like it or not, they're serving under the banner of the political party they were elected on, whether it's Conservative, Labour,
the members of whom paid for their election campaign.
Exactly. So they shouldn't be allowed or able. It shouldn't even be in the lexicon of things they could do. Defect. You can't defect. You can resign. If you don't want to do that job anymore, you resign. But you can't defect to effectively an opposing team that no one elected you.
There's something really interesting here, because the reason he's done, YouGov brought out a poll showing why people weren't voting for reform. They said that the number one issue was competence, and experience. Those are the two top ones. I think there's a couple of other things that in that top 5, let's say, but those are two of the top 5. And I think experience was number one. So that's why he's brought in all these people, because he wants to show that actually they do have experience and they could run for government. Except, and this is the thing, he is just a continual fucking weird moron. He's brought in some of the worst people that everyone associates with the failures of COVID, with, the failures of immigration policy, if you consider it to be a failure, And then obviously very controversial. And, you know, frankly, a lot of them were helping others or themselves to dodge tax.
Yeah.
So you're going, that's really fucking stupid to have brought these people in. And I can see why his polling's starting to go down. Sticking on that point, he's brought in people that make him look like he's making bad decisions. So I reckon a large chunk of his base are going to be anti-Muslim. He's brought in two Muslims, one running for mayor that caused absolute chaos within his own party, and she's received a ton of pushback. Wouldn't surprise me if a large chunk of that party is also misogynistic. So again, putting in a female leader into any position is going to be a failure from their perspective. And then Nadeem Zahawi, who, as I said, tax dodger, like failed to announce that he was eating his horses. Go on.
Asylum seeker.
And but so
he was born in Iraq. The family got his family got deposed, and by Saddam Hussein actually, and they fled to the UK. But they had loads of money because they were part of the former government of Iraq, so they could afford for him to go to a very expensive school.
Private school, yeah.
So that
and
makes
Lena Cunningham, her parents were Egyptian. Were they refugees or were they just?
Sorry,
Lena Cunningham, the reform mayor.
I'm not
her
sure.
Parents are Egyptian. I know that.
Maybe.
But I don't know if they were refugees or economic migrants.
Well, they're not from around these parts, are they? Etc.
But Alex, you say he's brought them in. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say on the on the point about defection. I agree that there should be if you join another party, but there is a bit of a grey zone here because one of the weapons that the whips have is to withdraw the party whip, and if you do that, you are instantly put onto a list of independent MPs. And I don't think that should be by-election triggering because I think that would give the whips like a ridiculous amount of power. Because at least if you stand on the coverage of your convictions and say I don't want to vote for this particular thing, and then they take away the whip for you, you still have a job.
Yeah,
the whips can't take the job away from you unless you're in government and they can stop you being a minister and you'll still be an MP. You'll still get your 90,000 basic salary, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But to give the whips that power, I think we're wrong. So I agree what you're saying. I think it should need some moderation. You can stand you can be an independent. You just can't join another party.
No, absolutely.
Unless you have another by-election and you put on the piece of paper, because this is a really important thing. When you stand for election, you have to register your party that you're standing with. If you're not standing with a party, it's got to be blank, but you can put the party logo. It's got to be approved by the Electoral Commission. And you have to be an established political party in order to have that little logo next to your name, because they know that logo next to your name gets over half your votes. Yes, there are going to be some people who are going to vote for you just because they love you. You know, Ben, you're lovely. You got a lovely beard. But like over half those people are going to vote for you because you're standing for the Monster Raven Looney Party.
But this is exactly what Suella Braverman, for one, has come out with since she defected, which is, they voted for me in spite of my rosette, in spite of the fact that I was standing for the Tories. Now, this is the same Suella Braverman that just a few months ago said if someone wanted to defect from Labour to another party, there should be, she said, there's a strong case for a by-election there. So it's just another sleight of hand. But no, I completely agree with what you said about the whip shouldn't have that kind of power. So yes, if you muck up in your party and the whip's suspended, you're an independent, you keep the job. What I'm saying is you can't then decide, right, I'm independent now, so it's even easier. I'm just going to join this party. No, you can't do that. You see out your term as an independent, in the grey zone where no one really knows what you stand for, and then you fade away. And that's fair enough. But I just genuinely believe there are too few, I don't want to say rules, but even guidelines when someone becomes an MP for what you can and can't do. I mean, on the one hand, you've got someone like Daisy Cooper for the Lib Dems, who keeps a diary and publishes weekly a record of what she has done AM and PM every single bloody day. Wow. So the electorate who elected her can see what she's doing with her time. And then I think back to the previous Tory government, and you had, was it Geoffrey Cox, who spent most of his time in the Maldives or wherever the hell it was.
Geoffrey Cox!
But I don't know what was his name.
This parliament is a disgrace!
Yes, that guy who was basically being a lawyer in the Maldives or something, and he forgot that he was an MP.
He was actually giving counsel against the British government.
There you go. I mean, you've got two people effectively doing the same job. There's no other job on the face of the planet where you could behave that diametrically opposed to someone else, ostensibly doing the same job as you, and get away with it. You know, if you're a firefighter, you put fires out. If you're an ICU nurse, you try and save people's lives. But apparently, if you're an MP, you can be doing one of those two
but not
things.
just. What about the advisors, though? There's a legal advisor on the Tories team, on Team Tory, who's also the legal representative for Roman Abramovich, who is being sued by the government. So in the shadow cabinet, they're listening to the legal opinions of a guy who is currently he's representing Roman Abramovich about.
Make it make sense, Graham.
It
about
feels so
Chelsea
corrupt.
sale.
Farage went to the USA and slagged us off. And then the rumor was he was trying to convince Trump to increase tariffs, to put pressure on Starmer so he can get into power. So again, it's the cult of
Some would call that
personality.
treason.
I would call it treason.
I remember what it was. It's experience and it's competence. Those are the two things that are happening.
Yeah.
And they're intertwined. And so he's hired in a load of people with experience, but they're totally incompetent. Which then
that's
just
what I was
goes,
gonna say, Alex.
he's really incompetent.
But it's not that he's hired them in. I don't think he's gone headhunting for specific Tories. He has literally just taken whatever's landed on his doorstep and said, can I defect?
That's true.
Oh, it just so happens that you are currently in the shadow cabinet. Great, you're even better. I don't care what you stood for, all the stuff in your past. There's going to be a tweet for every single scenario. He's just taken whatever's coming his way. The next one, according to Michael Gove, is going to be Gavin Williamson. My money's on Priti Patel, but I think Gavin Williamson is going to be next.
He should shut up and go away.
Oh, God.
Yeah, on that point.
I'll say this very quickly with the incompetence from that government, because you all touched on it. They all backed Brexit. Brexit crashed the pound, tanked the economy. The majority seem to have backed Liz Truss, who tanked the pound and crashed the economy. Then you look at the competence of their councillors. They've all said they were going to cut. They used posters with Farage's face on, and then they've all increased. But their new spin on this is, well, we haven't increased it as much as everyone else. And it's like, yeah, because you probably really cut social services. So more children and disabled and old people are going to be brutally treated. And then just to add into that, I will make a bet. I need to go to Clacton and do a Vox Pop at some point. I will make a bet that if I go to Clacton, no one will be able to name one fucking thing that Farage has done for the community to make it better. Not one. Because that's what it is. It's just a grift. There's nothing here. There's no policies that you said at the beginning. They back stupid people and stupid policies, and everything that they touch turns to shit. I don't see how.
And that, Alex, is one of our biggest weapons. The fact that everything they touch turns to shit. I've got the Durham Council, where Graham and I are living, is reform controlled. And people are now seeing with their own eyes that they want to put council tax up even more. They haven't fixed the potholes. Public spending and public services haven't improved one iota. What are they actually doing apart from resigning every 5 minutes because of incompetence, or they're not turning up, or they're leading meetings badly? So that's another weapon we've got. Just let it play out. And people are seeing what isn't happening in those 10 councils where reform are leading.
I think there's a need to advertise it. I think there's a need, but as you were saying,
led by donkeys, we should be doing that in Gorton and Denton.
It would help if we were being backed by foreign billionaires like they are. But another thing, to go back to what I was saying earlier about the right being very forgiving, the Tories and Refuck have slagged each other off across the board. 2 weeks later, come and join us, no problem, don't worry about it, old chap. Whereas the left are like, oh my, I remember a Labour person going off on one about the Lib Dems. This is when Labour were in power in like 2001 or something. And it was like these Lib Dems, they want to put a porno cinema next to every primary school. And they were so like vengeful about it. Like I couldn't understand, even at that tender age, I was only in my early 20s, how anyone could be so angry about the Lib Dems. Although we did have the coalition government, which was another thing, but that hadn't happened yet. I was like, how are you getting so vexed? I mean, let's be real here. Labour and the Lib Dems have a lot of crossover. I mean, it's probably about 50% of the policies they probably agree on. But no, they want to do this. And then you see this in Parliament when they took, and I hated it when Boris Johnson did this, and Starmer does the same thing. The Lib Dems will stand up, and it'll be Ed Davey or Daisy Cooper, and they'll say, we want you to do this. We want you to do this to make Britain better, right? And then the Prime Minister or David Lammy will stand up and say, you had a chance to vote for our policy to do this thing and you voted against it. And I do a show on Politics Social where we do a watch party with PM Hughes each week. And I'm screaming at the telly. I'm screaming at the people watching, going, they're the opposition. That's their job, to oppose. Otherwise, they'll be part of the party that's in power. But also, that policy that they're saying, oh, well, you should have approved that policy. It was part of a bigger raft of bills, whether it's the budget, whether it was the King's speech or whatever, stuff they didn't agree with. They might have put in amendments, but it's like they want to get that soundbite. They know most people don't know how politics works. They know how, the House of Parliament and its stupid arcane rules work. And I find it really, really frustrating that the right are so willing to work with each other. I was talking to another YouTuber about this. This is a while ago, and they were saying, there's no chance of Reform and the Tories working together. They hate each other. And
No,
like,
that's not how it works. The Reform might as well have been. Raj was a Tory. He was a Tory member. Cunningham was a Tory member. She slagged off immigration, and then I think someone had to point out that she was still part of that immigration policy until 2022.
Yeah.
Then you've got all the others. I think even
75% of the MPs that are Reform at the moment were Tories.
Under Johnson.
Well, they were
COVID
Tories at some point. I mean, going back to Lee Anderson, who was also Labour as well. But going back to what you were saying about the left not working together and the bubbles within bubbles, 45 more Tories defect to Reform. Ed Davey becomes the leader of the opposition. Now there's a stat. Just 45. And as Farage has pointed out, they've got till the 7th of May. That's 100 more days they've got to defect. I mean,
hang on, it's got to be 45.
40. Apparently, it may be less. But I've read it's 45. They've got 72. The Tories had 121.
Yeah,
and Lib Dems have got
maybe it's around. It's a ballpark figure. It's around that figure. But it could happen.
You're right. Yeah.
Gavin Williamson next. Priti Patel possibly after that.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch more.
There is some positive news.
Oh, good.
Petition's been created and got over 100,000 demand with by-elections being forced if you defect to a different party. Which
means it gets debated in the broom cupboard in Westminster. And then
does. But then that doesn't mean to say that Starmer might consider that as policy at some point.
Oh, God, it should be. It's a no-brainer.
Will, but it gives it more credence for that happening.
There's lots of things Labour should do that are complete no-brainers. No second jobs, no foreign billionaires being able to give our parties loads of money. You have to be, free and fair about everything that comes in. I think that political parties should be funded out of taxpayers' money. And the more MPs you have, the more tax money you get. It's what they do in Australia. Yeah. I also think that pensions should be means tested because we're spending over 100 billion a year on pensions. And a lot of that is going to millionaires who don't need that extra money coming from the state because they are millionaires. I'm not saying that.
I always worry about means testing because you'll get people being hit who then lose out when they need it.
Well, you make the bar quite high. But you can do that and make the bar quite high. And we think that now because Labour, famously made the bar very low when they tried to mean test the winter fuel payment.
Yeah, and then they put it too high because it's 35,000 a year now, which is more than most working people earn.
But then the problem I see with that, and we've seen it with student loans, is someone opens the door and then another group come in like the Tories and Reform and they lower that bar and they go, they don't have to do as much in terms of legislation. They just go, it was at 1 million, now we're going to drop it to 100,000. Yeah. That's what's happened with the student loans.
Well, one in four, Alex, 1 in 4 pensioners are millionaires.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm always concerned whenever means testing is brought in because there's a chance that someone's going to get hit and die as a result because it's means tested. And that's shown across the board whenever that's done, that people fall through those cracks, no one cares, and they end up dying or committing suicide. That's the thing I'm always concerned about with means testing. And I'm not saying you can't do it for the millionaires. That'll be easy. What I then said was, like with the student loans, you open that door and then you'll get the Conservatives or Reform in who seem to have zero empathy, and they'll just drop it to a different bar and go, you've got to be means tested at, 30,000, 20,000. And then you will start seeing people die, but it's because the door's being opened. I'm
I see what you're saying there, but
about that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just
yeah.
concerned.
But no, like Graham said, if 1 in 4 pensioners currently are millionaires, you can take them out of the equation immediately. You can just say, right, okay, you're a millionaire. You do not need the state pension.
But if they fall on hard times, absolutely, you can apply for the state pension again and say, look, I've got no money now because something happened, my house burned down, or I got dementia, and now I have to pay £2,000 a day for my carers to come.
I think we're talking about this as if it's a policy that we could implement. But I mean, if it was, on the statute book and up for debate, then yes, you would set the bar deliberately higher than it needed to be, and you'd put into law some safeguard that meant that couldn't be changed. I mean, I know what you're saying, Alex. Another administration comes in and plays around with it, but you could say the same of any policy that any government puts into place. Then the next government could fuck it all up. So I don't know what preventative measures you can put in place to stop that happening. But, there is an awful lot of wastage. And this is another of the ironies with reform. One of their, if they have a policy other than stop the boats, one of them was, we're going to identify Doge style, the wastage, and stop it. They've done nothing of the sort. They've done none of that. They've done none of that. And that's all gone. That's all now conveniently not spoken about. So, yeah.
What do you think of the rumours kicking around on social media at the moment about rejoining and Starmer running that policy in the next election?
It's doable. It's
to rejoin the EU.
Rejoin. It's a rumour kicking around on social media only.
Can I make my prediction? Can I make my shit prediction?
You can make
I think that what's very likely to happen is the EU is going to make an outer orbit of the EU to allow countries like Albania and Ukraine and Turkey to join the outer orbit. And so it's a 2-speed EU, and we'll join the outer orbit. And that's much more likely.
There'll be a referendum led by Labour then.
My prediction is similar, but it's more of a wish list, which is that in 3 years' time, come the 2029 election, the winning party or coalition will run on a manifesto pledge of rejoining the single market. Because I think, obviously, the rejoining the EU full throttle is a bit of a stretch at the moment for the public and the mindset I think it's got. All they've got to do is remind people of what Daniel Hannan said during the referendum, which was that nobody's talking about leaving the single market. And that was a Brexiter, hardline Brexiter. No one's talking about leaving the single market. Right, let's rejoin that. Here are the pragmatic, straightforward, practical things this will do to improve everybody's lives. It's a no-brainer. We're not going to have a referendum on it. We don't need one. If the party that has that on their manifesto promises gets into power, we do it. Then we start talking about the obvious next step. But I think if we're not there in 3 years' time, then Starmer's positioning himself right now, in my view, to go in that direction. Because let's remember, 8 months ago, we were all red lines, never in my lifetime, we're not rejoining the EU. Now he's talking about reform openly being racist. He's talking about constantly talking about the differences between him and Nigel Farage and everybody else. He's talking about realignment, customs union. These are big shifts in the narrative.
I don't think the EU will do it. I don't think they'll give
us there's that as well. I'm talking about
market. It's you guys have fucked about for 10 years. You've caused us untold.
They'll want assurances, yes.
Well, this is
that it can't happen again.
You know, the customs union that they're looking into at the moment is not their customs union, but a customs union. Yeah. The deal is going to be basically, if we leave, it's going to cost us so much fucking money, because they know that if Farage gets in, he'll want to leave, but they're going to make it absolutely financially impossible for us to leave once we're in.
That's a safeguard.
I think they're going to have safeguards like that set up, because, like I say, they don't want to be going every 5 years from one side to, we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. But I think there's something that we do need to bear in mind, because we do have a habit of they're on the left saying X many people want to do this, X many people want to do that. Doesn't matter. What do the billionaires want to do? What do the foreign billionaires want us to do? And 99 times out of 100, it's whatever they want us to do. If they want us to privatize the water, we privatize the water. If they want to privatize the housing stock, privatize the housing stock. If they want us to privatize the telecommunication industry so they can all make shitloads of money, we privatize it. If they want Gordon Brown to sell off all the fucking gold, he'll sell off the gold, because that's what their billionaires want. And we need to stop thinking that we live in a democracy. We don't. We live in a pseudo-democracy that makes us have the appearance of, we get a say in things a little bit. But if you want to know what's going to happen in the future, ask yourself the question, what do the billionaires want? And if they want Trump, you're going to get Trump. If they want Brexit, you're going to get Brexit.
On that note, thanks, guys.
On the happy note.
On the happy note.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Tune in next week for another exciting story from the files of Police Squad.
Brilliant.
We're
complaining about
bullied
no pudding.
to talk about positive stuff on the show.
Yeah, because you don't want to just end it with
first time anyone's
the billionaires
gone,
are all
not
in charge,
enough.
we're all going to
Give
die.
me more.
So, Ben, right?
Yeah.
Why are Americans so angry all the time?
Why are Americans so angry all the time?
Yeah.
I don't think they're any. I don't think they're any angrier than we are. I think they've got every right to be angry at the moment.
I think they are. Do you know why? Because they don't have
Is this a
biscuits.
joke?
No. Seriously, they don't have.
What's
they
the
don't have
punchline?
biscuits.
Why
That's
are
it.
they
That's the
angry?
punchline. They don't have biscuits. Their chocolate tastes like badger's arse.
They have cookies.
And
They just call them cookies.
Their cheese is a sad mockery of cheese. It's like someone saw a block of cheese and then tried to make it out of Play-Doh.
How is this any more optimistic than talking about the end of the universe?
It's not optimistic at all.
No.
You want to slag off their lager as well?
I'm saying, yeah, I will. I'm just going to say British people more happy, more content in general than Americans.
We're not quite
less
Finland.
Angry, less angry.
We might be happier than America, yeah, but we're not Finland.
Because at least we've got
Ben's
decent
punching
cheese.
holes in your happy balloon.
No, listen, if you really genuinely want something to be optimistic rather than happy about, let's be pragmatic about this. I think Labour are going in a direction a little faster than I thought they might do 8 months, 10 months, a year ago towards Europe. I'm encouraged by that. And I'm also encouraged by the fact that Reform's popularity is waning, and they may well have peaked too soon. But it's 3 years until the next election. I don't think they can maintain that level of popularity, especially with 3 more years of council refuckers leading. Now, Darren Grimes up here, the deputy leader of our council. Good God, that's 3 more years to screw it all up.
Wait, your guy's Darren Grimes.
Darren Grimes is the deputy leader of our council.
Leader,
I know.
Durham
I know.
Council. The
Seriously.
leader is a guy called Andrew Husbands, whose last company went bust, owing 1.5 million to the creditors and the taxman.
Yeah.
But him in charge, you run it like a business. You run it like a business.
So like I said, they're doing some of the work for us.
Another bit of good news that we've had this week. The murder rate in the UK, sorry, the number of murders, not the rate, the actual number of murders, 499 in England and Wales, less than 500. It's the lowest rate in decades. Britain, might not feel it because of what they write in the newspapers, but it's actually safer than at any point in my lifetime up to now.
That's partly because people can't afford to buy the tools to knock each other off anymore because of the cost of living crisis. So that is part of it.
You've got to pay VAT on the carpet, to roll your victims up in before you throw them on the.
Have you seen the price of hammers in
496?
B&Q? A decent hammer that you would need to bludgeon someone to death now is quite pricey.
That's 20 quid.
Yeah,
can't be hard.
It's out of most people's budget. It really is.
We're going in that Chris Rock direction. Don't make the bullets expensive.
Yeah, make the bullets $1 million each. That's it.
Yeah.
Just make the hammers.
Make them like £1,000, and then you're like, there must have been a reason.
When the Americans are going, Britain's really dangerous, and doing these stupid TikTok videos, walking around London, going, I'm going to get mugged, and you're like, actually, your murder rate is 5 times what it is in the UK. More people get killed in America each year. Twice as many people get killed by the cops in America than get killed by murderers in the UK. So choose your holiday carefully.
I did quite like the Rejoin EU Party's little twist on Layla Cunningham's meme, which was clearly a reference to Trump, where she's walking in frozen London with a penguin. And they took the penguin out and they had Death walking with her.
Very good. Very good.
Very strange. What a time to be alive.
Bye-bye.